It is Backyard Brawl week. It's week 3 of the 2024 college football season as the West Virginia Mountaineers prepare to take on their arch nemesis, the Pitt Panthers. That game will air on ESPN2 at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time this Saturday, September the 14th. And my friend, my partner, Jonathan Martin, is here with me, and we are going to preview this game. And we're going to do that right after this word from the channel sponsor. Since 1931, the attorneys at Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner have been the voice for victims who have suffered serious injury or death. They have a fierce passion for truth and justice and a sincere compassion for those who have been wronged by others. Whether you have been in a car accident or fighting with an insurance company, or you or a loved one has suffered serious injury or death due to medical negligence, we will ensure your voice is heard loud and clear. Katz, Cantor, Stone Street, and Buckner will ensure there is justice for all West Virginians because we are your lawyer. Your voice. Visit us at yourlawyeryourvoice.com. What is up, and welcome into episode number 7 of the Golden Blue Breakdown Show with Couz and Jonathan Martin. Jonathan, how are you doing?
Couz, I'm doing good, man. It's Backyard Brawl week. What better week to talk Mountaineer football?
Absolutely, absolutely. And just I don't know what it sounds like to everybody on your end, but just I am traveling in a hotel this week. Internet's not great here, so if there are technical difficulties during the show, I'm going to apologize in advance. It was the only night we could record because of our busy lives, and we're just doing the best we can. So anyways, hopefully there's no issues, but if there are, we apologize in advance. So that being said, let's jump right in, and the first thing we're going to do is, well, just to give you a kind of a summary, we're going to do a brief recap of the Albany game. We're going to give you each 3 keys to the game that each of us have. We're going to give you 2 position battles to watch and then 1 player to watch for the Mountaineers. And as a reminder, Jonathan and I do not compare notes before the show because we want this to be authentic. So, and it makes it more interesting. So, with that being said, Jonathan, go ahead and give me your initial thoughts on the Albany game.
Yeah, when I try to figure out the word that best describes my thoughts, I just kept coming back to just strange. You beat a team 49-14. You cover the spread. You shut them out in the second half. You throw for 250. You run for 300. And it's almost like we're not even talking about that. There's concerns. Obviously, the elephant in the room, the defensive secondary, defense maybe as a whole, but mostly the secondary. There's concerns there, and so it was strange for me to watch that game. We discussed last week on this show. Both you and I agreed that we felt West Virginia needed to come out and be dominant, really, from the very beginning of the game, and to have that attitude. They did early. They were up 21-0. Things were rolling. I had even tweeted out that I loved what I was seeing out of the team until I didn't. And it just kind of – it didn't get out of hand score-wise, but the secondary is the talk of the program and the fan base right now. And so we could talk on and on about the good, but it's just really weird and strange feeling that the negative is kind of a little bit brighter.
Yeah, and that's fair. And strange is the perfect word. I came up with the same one. And I think the Penn State game, the shadow of that game still looms large because we got our expectations so high, not necessarily to win the game, but for the team to play well and compete.
Yeah.
And they looked, let's just be honest, they didn't look good at all. And we got so disappointed and so let down by that as a fan base that I think it was going to be really hard to be impressed at all in week 2 because they were playing an FCS team. And then when we saw that they actually had a little bit of success against West Virginia, and it was due to some of the same struggles they had the week before, And really, even honestly, you could say some of the struggles that this team has had over the course of the last few years, in some cases, I just think people are a little bit, I don't know if snake bitten is the right word, really.
Yeah.
I do think we could be overreacting to a degree, honestly. I know I did. I'll own that because we're only 2 games in, and West Virginia has had teams in the past that have struggled with FCS opponents. Throughout the course of a game. They've never lost to an FCS opponent, but they've had games where they've not dominated or even been trailing at halftime in some games, right? And those teams ended up being okay for the most part. Those West Virginia teams did. So it's probably going to be okay. But for whatever reason, I think that Penn State game it's like it just knocked the wind out of ourselves, and it's hard. It's going to take a win over Pitt and maybe even a win over Kansas in back-to-back weeks to kind of get that feeling like things are going right again, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think it's just it's been a sensitive subject for the fan base, the secondary, for a while, and it's almost like a here we go again type mentality. I do agree with you in the sense of, is it possible that we overreacted a little bit? And again, we'll lump ourselves in this, right? So we're not pointing fingers.
Right.
I had a discussion with somebody about the Albany game, and they made a pretty good point. Listen, at the end of the day, West Virginia should have beaten them soundly. They did. And you probably shouldn't have given up some of the passing yardage that you did. But they said Albany probably played a little bit different in West Virginia, in Morgantown against West Virginia than they did in week 1 at home against Long Island. And so at some point, maybe you have to tip your cap there too. But we'll see. And as we'll get into this game coming up this weekend, we're going to find out what the secondary does. We're going to find out this week. And so was it a watered down personnel scheme last week where you didn't want to show a lot? Or is that who they really are?
Yeah.
And we're going to find out.
Yep. Agreed. I totally agree. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to shift the focus to the Pitt game. We're going to shift the focus to the Backyard Brawl. We're going to start off with Jonathan giving us his we'll go one at a time. Jonathan's going to give us his first key to the game for the Mountaineers this Saturday.
Yeah, so again, elephant in the room. We just talked about it. It's that West Virginia secondary. It's make or break time, Couz. They're going to have to figure it out, right? So is what we saw last week and even in week 1, was that just a fluke? That's not us. Was it a scheme watered down to where they just didn't want to show a lot? Or is this who they are? I can tell you we did one of our first episodes where we reviewed game by game. We talked about Pitt's quarterback. Eli Holstein's good. He's young freshman. He's young, but he's talented. He was 4-star kid out of high school, went to Alabama, didn't play a lot. But how many 4- and 5-star kids go to Alabama and don't get a ton of playing time? And in today's world, they go somewhere else. Because let me tell you, I don't know if you've paid attention much to his first 2 games, but he's thrown for over 300 yards in both games. And he's thrown for 3 touchdowns in both games. In fact, he was the first freshman quarterback at Pitt since 1989 to throw for over 300 yards in his first 2 games. Little inexperienced, obviously, young, going to make some mistakes. But you better believe he's going to bring it. He's going to fling it. Cade Bell comes in from Western Carolina as a new offensive coordinator. He's kind of running that spread offense, up-tempo. Pitt's averaging 534 yards of offense per game. And so my first key is just quite simply, what is this West Virginia secondary? and we're going to find out. I was interested to see that Neil Brown said on Monday, kind of open competition, more reps, more guys, more competition, and they were going to battle it out. And Jordan Leslie kind of followed that up and said it was a rather simple fix. So, but we're going to find out, because Eli Holstein's going to sling it.
Yeah.
And he can do it, and he's shown it.
Yep.
I don't know if you watched much of their game against Cincinnati on Saturday, but they
I watched the first
rallied.
half.
Yeah, they rallied. They were down in that game, and they had a
Right.
great fourth quarter comeback, because he was 10 for 11, 189 yards and 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. So he's coming into this week with a lot of confidence as well. And so that secondary for me is it could quite honestly for me be 1, 2, and 3. But it's definitely number 1.
Yeah. And I didn't pick it because I knew you would, and you know, I just kind of wanted to be different, and I wanted to talk about something else because we all know that's the elephant in the room, like you said, and it's the 10,000-pound gorilla, whatever phrase you want to term.
Sure.
It is. But so you're right, it is a key. But I will say this, and this kind of goes hand in hand with my first key. And again, this will help the pass defense, or the pass coverage, I should say. And that is getting pressure on Eli Holstein. Yes, he can sling it. Yes, he was 10 for 11 in the second half, but he is a redshirt freshman. It's only his third game of starting experience. It should be, I say should because we still don't know if West Virginia's defense is better than Cincinnati's, but it should be the best defense they've played so far. And technically, West Virginia should get some pressure on Eli Holstein, whether it be Sean Martin, whether it be TJ Jackson, who's going to be starting in place of Eddie Vesterinen, apparently.
Yeah.
Maybe even, Aubrey Burks coming from the spear position, maybe Ty French or Tyron Bradley coming off the edge. Whoever it is, they need to get pressure on Eli Holstein, which should help those DBs in the secondary not have to cover for so long. So to me, those two things are married together, and the front seven needs to do their part, and you can even throw the safeties in there, but they need to do their part in getting pressure to help on the coverage on the back end.
Yeah, I agree. And just on my part, as honest as I can be, there's concern for me. Miles Burkett from Albany threw for over 300, and so Holstein's going to fling it. He threw 40 times in one game. He threw 35 times in the other. And so you have to believe, right, that Pitt and their new offensive coordinator, Cade Bell, are maybe licking their chops. Now, to your point, it's a big game. It's a big stage. The Backyard Brawl hits a little bit different, right? So we'll see. There's going to be a lot of West Virginia folks there, even though it's in Pittsburgh. I think I 100% agree with you. I just think we're going to find out. Let me say this. I think when we walk away from this game, if you didn't learn about the secondary in week 1 and you didn't really learn and maybe confused or whatever after week 2, I think you're going to find out this week what you're made of. Whether it's going to be something for the rest of the season, or is it, okay, it's not as bad as we thought.
Yep. All right. What's key number 2?
Yeah. So number 2 for me, and again, it's Pitt offense related. Again, they're averaging over 530 yards per game. So I put contain Pitt's Desmond Reed. This young cat's quick, man. He came from Western Carolina as well. Leads the nation in all-purpose yards. Couz 244 yards per game. All-purpose yards. In week 1, he had a receiving touchdown, a return touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. And then last week, I think it was 100 yards rushing, 100 yards receiving. He's all over the field. And so, as you said, your points kind of go hand in hand, or mine and yours do. I think 1 and 2 kind of go hand in hand for me. Is he's one to watch, and I'll be curious to see how West Virginia schemes against him, because he's all over the place, special teams, rushing, passing. So I think they're going to have to find a way to contain him, because I believe Pitt's averaging almost 42 points a game. If you give up 500 and plus yards that they're averaging and you give up 40, it could be a long day.
Yeah, agreed. My second key is I wanted to kind of turn to the West Virginia defense a little bit, and I think the key here is – I'm sorry, the West Virginia offense, and that's establishing the run game.
Yeah.
West Virginia, we know, is going to want to run the football. Pitt gave up 100, I think it was around 145 or 150 yards rushing against Cincinnati, most of those by Corey Kiner on the ground, who's a really good running back. Well, West Virginia has 2 really good running backs in C.J. Donaldson and Jaheim White. Now, Jaheim White didn't play. It's my understanding, if I recall, he didn't play in the Backyard Brawl a year ago. If he did, he didn't get a lot of snaps.
Yeah.
So he didn't start really playing a lot of snaps until about week 5 or 6 of the season, or maybe even later than that.
Yeah.
So, they're going to have to prepare for him. And if West Virginia can run that football enough, control the clock, keep the football away from Pitt, there won't be as much concern about that secondary and that defense, because West Virginia will be controlling the clock. And especially if they're scoring on the scoring touchdowns when they get it instead of field goals, that's going to go even further. But to me, West Virginia controlling the clock with the run game is a critical part of this as well, because that's your identity, and you need to be able. That's who you are as a team, and that's what they need to be able to establish that and own that and dominate that phase of the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they were perfect in the red zone last week. Yep. And I said, well, we both talked about the run game, but I even said in week 1 and in last week's previews, run the football. And I did think last week was a great bounce back. I mean, CJ was 125. What was it? 305 yards rushing as a team.
Yeah.
And that is, you're 100% right. That's our identity. And even Garrett got back into running the football last week. And so, I agree, because it opens up so much for this team.
Agreed. And it takes pressure off the defense and gives them
absolutely
and allows them to rest. They're a man down on the defensive line now, so that hurts the depth. So they're going to need that rest as well.
Yeah. And what better way?
Your third key?
Yeah. So my third, and you knew, again, you said it early. We don't compare notes, and I've talked about it both weeks, so I had to talk about it again. Run the football. you took it right out. Pitt allowed Corey Kiner to run for 150. You have to believe that West Virginia feels really good about their run game after last week. And I think with knowing that's your identity, plus knowing Pitt is going to try and move the football on offense, and they're going to fling it, and they're going to test it. I wouldn't be surprised to see West Virginia slow tempo a little bit, trying to run the football, spread them out, a good mix of Jaheim and CJ, sprinkle in some Garrett to open up other things. I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't a tactic this week. And so, for me, third, and I'm really not much I can follow up on. You broke that down really well. Just run the football. Be who you are, especially after last week. Man, they feel really good about it. And so, running. And I'll tell you, too, again, my first 2 points, if you can establish the run game and control that clock and control time of possession, you take care of my first 2, which is pass defense and containing Desmond Reed.
Yep. My third key, you mentioned Pitt. They like to go. They have Cade Bell likes to move fast. He likes to snap the ball a lot. He likes to speed it up, hurry up offense. And Coach Brown actually said he thought it was the fastest offense since, I think he said that since they played Texas Tech a few years ago, when they were running that style of offense. But anyway, they want to snap the ball as many times as they can, basically. So in order for West Virginia to combat that, what do they need to do on defense? They need to win on first down. You've got to keep Pitt behind the chains. So the third key for me is for that West Virginia defense, in order to keep Pitt from being able to speed you up, win on first down on defense. That way it makes it harder. It limits their playbook. They don't have as many options at their disposal. And if you do that, it will make their life harder, and it makes life easier on your, the rest of your defense. And it hopefully helps get your defense off the field, which allows them to rest, and everything kind of falls into place from there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I just think it's West Virginia's identity, as we talked about. I think they feel really good about some matchups, and I feel they feel really good about who they are running the football, especially coming after a huge week last week. So, yeah, it that opens up so much offensively and defensively that it's important, because, again, what I said is if you just sit back and allow Pitt to get over 500 yards of offense and almost 42 points, I'm not going to tell you can't win the game, but you're living dangerously. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that that's a position where West Virginia wants to be in.
Yep, agreed. All right, next we are going to shift to two position battles that we are keeping an eye on in this game. So, Jonathan, what is your first position battle to watch in the Backyard Brawl?
Yeah, so for me, it was the West Virginia offensive line versus the Pitt defensive line. We kind of touched base on, don't tell me I took it from you. You should have went first. You're the host.
I should.
I'll tell you why. Again, the offensive side and it opening up the run game. One thing that really stood out to me, and I don't know what the comment section is going to look like, Couz, if we talk Pitt up too much, but at the risk of getting flooded with some comments, I was pretty impressed with some things I saw from the Pitt defense. They've battled. They've got some athletes. They're quick. Couz, they've got 8 sacks in 2 games.
Mm-hmm. They get after you. A lot
they
of
get after you.
Too. They're very aggressive.
Yeah, very aggressive. And it sounds like you've done the same homework and research that I did. And again, I promise we don't share these, but I think we saw some of the same things. And so for me, you cannot allow them to be active in the backfield. You cannot allow them to stop you on those 2-3 yard losses trying to run the football. You can't let them get to Garrett. And so the offensive line, it's going to have to really perform this week, because 8 sacks through 2 games, and it's easy to say some of the competition, but when you watch the film, they're active. They're active. And so you're going to have to step up on that offensive line.
Yeah, and Cincinnati's offensive line, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they had all 5 of their starters back from last year.
Yep.
Didn't they?
Really experienced up front. And Pitt, especially in the second half, looked really good defensively.
So I'm with you. Now I do think, and this is not my position. That is my position. So I'm just going to go ahead and add on, because I had that too. So I'm just going to go ahead and continue that. But I do. Hopefully we don't do the same thing on the other one. But we talked about how Pitt likes to be aggressive on defense. It's Pat Narduzzi's MO. They're going to blitz you a lot, probably more than any team they play. That kind of can play into West Virginia's hands in the run with that run game, right? How do you beat a blitz? You run the football, and you as long as you can get a seam to run through, it's a lot easier to get to the second level when there's nobody there. So if West Virginia can run the ball well, it might force Pitt to be less aggressive, which would help in the pass game as well, and give Garrett more opportunities. and could really open up the playbook, in my opinion. So hopefully, or I'll tell you something else. Shot plays. Garrett loves to take shot plays, right? If they're coming on a blitz and you've got a one-on-one on the outside, let Garrett throw it up and let Hudson Clement or Traylon Ray or one of these guys go get the football.
Yep.
That's another way you beat a blitz. So I actually like the idea that they're aggressive on defense because I think that might play into what West Virginia's strengths are, which is throwing it deep and running the ball. So I actually like that. But again, it plays into the key that both of us have here. Offensive line has to control that.
Yeah.
When they do blitz, they've got to step up and control it. And you got to throw Cole Taylor and Traylon Davis in there too. They've got to block their guys. And even the running backs are going to be critical on passing downs and helping pick up those blitzes because they've got to keep Garrett clean and let him do what he does.
Yeah, absolutely. So it looks like we kind of we saw the same things. Yep. And it just opens so much up for West Virginia. But great point. It allows that explosive play if they rush quick on the edges and they do get into that backfield. It opens up for Garrett. So yeah, good point. I think it's going to be an important game for the West Virginia offensive line because Pitt's talented and they're extremely active.
Yep, agreed. All right, what's your second battle to watch?
Couz, you know I love special teams, right?
You got to do it, man.
I have to. I'm going to tell you why. The conditions aren't going to be great. They've already talked about off and on rain, windy. Okay. It's always tricky kicking there. You can even go back to Steelers games. There's always just an old kind of tale about kicking in that stadium. But both teams feel really good about their special teams. But I would argue that Pitt probably feels a little bit better. Ben Sauls, their kicker, kicked 3 field goals last week. He's 5 for 5 on the season and 8 for 8 in extra points. He's talented. He's consistent. And one of those was of 50-plus yards. So it's not short leg kicks.
And a game winner.
One
of them was a game winner.
Yeah. And I talked earlier about Desmond Reed. Very good in special teams. He's already got a kick return for a touchdown on the year. And so if we believe that this is going to be a close game that could potentially be a shootout, you have to contain Desmond Reed in special teams. And they've got a kicker that, even though it's early, has proven that he can kick a game winner. He's proven that he's extremely consistent on extra points and has yet to miss a field goal on the year. So when you add that in there and you add in some possible weather conditions, I love special teams, but this could be a game that comes down to a special teams blunder, a kick, a turnover, something. So it's definitely, for me, it's a position to watch.
Yep.
And I knew you wouldn't go there, I don't think. So.
Well said. I like it. And I don't think Michael Hayes has ever kicked there before, to my knowledge. So that could keep that West Virginia's kicker. Keep that, that could, will that play a role? I don't know. These kickers usually have they usually have ice in their veins. That stuff usually doesn't bother them. So we'll see.
And the
wind there shouldn't be that much different in Morgantown because it's not that far away. Yeah. Yep. My position battle, and this is where I'm going to talk about the secondary. Okay. I didn't do it on the keys. I'm doing it here. But the West Virginia DBs against the Pitt receivers. Now, Pitt, everybody, you always hear about Gavin Bartholomew, the tight end. You hear about Kanate Mumfield, right? And that's fair. That's fair. Mumfield has already caught 10 balls for 179 yards and 3 touchdowns. But they also have a kid named Johnson, who's got 7 catches. Bartholomew has 7 catches. They have another receiver with 8, another receiver with 6. They like to spread the ball around.
Yeah.
And they will throw it deep too. So can the secondary play
Yep.
the ball in the air, and can they cover guys? And it ain't just a secondary. Can the linebackers cover guys? There was a few times last week that I think our linebackers didn't get deep enough, allowed some plays over the middle, things like that too. So it's not always a secondary. I want to make that clear. And it's not always the corners. The safeties have missed some plays too. But can West Virginia's defense play good in pass coverage against – and, heck, you got to throw Desmond Reed in there. He's their second leading receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Can they cover these guys in the pass game? That's going to be critical.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, it all comes back to that secondary. And we're 2 games in and we just don't know. But again, with Cade Bell there taking over as the OC from Western Carolina, the offense he's implemented there, the weapons, brought Desmond Reed with him. Their quarterback's talented. He's young, but he's talented. He's flinging it all over the place, and like you said, spreads that ball out. You're going to be tested early and often in this game, and so I certainly couldn't fault you for that position matchup, because it could literally come down to how the secondary performs Saturday.
Yep. All right. Now we're going over to the one player to watch. Who's your one player to watch for West Virginia?
Yeah, so for me, I'm going C.J. Donaldson, especially after last week. Couz, did you just get the feeling that he looked healthy?
Yep.
He looked healthy. He was. It seemed like at times he had transitioned over to just trying to be physical, but not as quick, not a runner. And again, I realize it was Albany, but I thought he looked more mobile. He looked quicker on his feet. He wasn't always just trying to bulldoze somebody. He just looked different. He looked healthy.
He looked like he did his freshman year.
Yeah, he really did. He looked like the running back, ironically enough, that we saw in Pittsburgh in the Backyard Brawl when everybody said, "What do we have here?"
Yep.
He looked like that player. And so I believe, as discussed earlier, West Virginia is going to look to run the football. They're going to be methodical. They're going to be who they are. They're going to try and eat some clock. And I think he's going to get plenty of opportunities. But because I feel like he is in a better position physically than maybe he has been since his freshman year, early in his freshman year, I look for CJ to have a big game on Saturday.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, mine, I went a little bit different angle. Edward Vesterinen is likely going to be out with an injury. Neil Brown has already said T.J. Jackson will likely replace Eddie. And T.J. Jackson, ironically, has probably been the best defensive lineman so far as getting into the backfield and disrupting things. I think he even leads the team in sacks, if I'm not mistaken, or is at least tied for the lead in sacks. And Coach Brown has even said he's been the most consistent at that. So, and, if you go back to one of my keys to the game being putting pressure on Eli Holstein, then to me it makes sense for T.J. Jackson to be a key here. And not only getting pressure on Holstein, but can he be as good as what Eddie V normally is in the run game? Because Eddie V is a really good run stopper. That's his specialty.
Mm-hmm.
Can TJ repeat that? Or it'll be interesting, too. They might end up putting Sean Martin at the D tackle spot. I don't know if it really matters whether you call him a tackle or an end.
Yeah.
One plays the boundary, one plays, and one plays the field. It's really the only difference that I can see. But nonetheless, they might switch those guys up a little bit, put TJ on, have him and Sean switching around.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think TJ is going to be a key piece here. And I'm really looking forward to seeing him get more snaps, to seeing what he can really, really do when given the opportunity.
Yeah. He's been impressive. And I think you could throw Josiah Trotter into that mix too. And so it's going to be interesting to see TJ get a little bit more opportunity this week, because as you talked about, with the way Pitt is going to play offensively, it's going to be extremely important to be able to get into the backfield and to be aggressive, be disruptive. And so, yeah, great pick. I don't know that we've went defense so far this year. Maybe we did on one. I don't know.
I can't remember. Probably not.
So great pick. I didn't see it coming. Great pick.
Yeah, I was trying to be well. I mean, like mine always kind of tie together, and with all this talk about the defense, I think the offense. I'm very confident that this offense, the Penn State game, I think was an anomaly. They were nervous. They let their anxiety get the best of them. They had some uncharacteristic mistakes, but I think after last week, they're back in their groove. I think the offense is going to be fine. My anxiety is around the defense, so it made sense for me to pick a defensive guy as my player to watch.
Yep.
All right. Let's go to the score prediction. I got a feeling it's going to be you're picking a close game because you pick special teams as a position battle. So what do you got?
Yeah, as you just said, it made sense for you to go that direction with your one to watch in the game, and it makes sense for me to in the score. I've got West Virginia winning 34-31. 34-31. I think it's going to be close. I feel like it could be a game that the emotions, there's some scoring early and then teams settle down. And I really believe we're going to be sitting here next week talking about something special teams related. And there's too many quality special teams players in this game. So I think it's going to be a close game. The Backyard Brawl, because it usually always is, right? I mean, it's so 34-31 West Virginia.
Again, we're not far off. I'm also picking a 3-point game.
Okay.
I too think it will come down to a field goal. I am picking West Virginia to win the game by 3, just like you. I'm not, but a few less points. I'm picking West Virginia 31-28.
Okay.
So, and again, the field goal is going to be important, especially. And again, it's a rivalry game. Whether you're 0-12 or 12-0, it's always a good game. So I don't expect any different this year. Both teams have some question marks.
Mm-hmm.
Both teams look to be good in spots. It's a good. It not only is it a rivalry game, but it could be a good measuring stick game for each team as well. So I think it's going to be tight. I think there's a lot of similarities in these teams, to be honest with you. So it should be a fun one.
It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a great game, and I think both teams have an equal amount of pressure in this game. One, you want to win it, right? It's Backyard Brawl.
Mm-hmm.
But two, Pitt's 2-0. They've got an opportunity to get a huge win, go 3-0. And all of a sudden, after a team that won 3 games last year, they've already met that mark through 3 weeks. And so I think they want to get a big win and prove they're different this year. And then I think for West Virginia, there's still that balance, right? That juggle of what are we? And we've discussed off air, we've discussed on air. It's about to get real for West Virginia after this week in the Big 12. And I think this game will show us a lot about the team offensively and defensively, but it will calm some nerves, or it's just going to rile a lot of people up even more. And so both teams have an equal amount of stake in this this Saturday. And so I think it's going to be close. And so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm excited for it. It's always a great game. And there's a lot to play for sure.
Yeah, and I just I don't want to hate to go down this road, but I think we kind of have to. But if West Virginia loses this, I think this is. Do you think this is a must-win game for Neil Brown and West Virginia?
Yeah. I don't know how. I don't know how you lose this game and overcome it, Couz, for the rest of the year. I think
barring going on some kind of miraculous run in the Big 12 and going like 8-1 in the conference or 7-2, something like that.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know how you overcome this game and make that run if you lose it.
Yeah.
There still are people out there that are frustrated at Neil Brown for 2 years ago in Pittsburgh. Like haven't forgot it, right? Like,
right. Mm-hmm.
And it still bothers them to this day. And with all the talk and all the hope and the anticipation and last year's 9 wins and what you had coming back to start the way they did week 1, to win week 2, but there's still that cloud, and then to lose week 3
to your rival.
And so I'll tell you, I won't prolong this, but I kind of live tweeted, because I guess you can't say live X'd, during
you can, but it doesn't make a lot of sense.
During Neil Brown's press conference on Monday, and he kept saying multiple times, Couz, that this means a lot to our fans. This means a lot to our fans. And you know what the number one reply to that tweet was? It better mean a lot to him. And
interesting.
And so I think I think the fans still remember 2 years ago, and some of the comments, if you'll remember, on field when he was talking about
a lot of hype for one game.
Yeah. And Couz, that still resonates among people. And you almost hate to talk about it. And hopefully
I can tell you're not comfortable talking about it.
Yeah, I'm just extremely concerned about where things go if this doesn't go in West Virginia's favor on Saturday. I hope we look back at this last 4 or 5 minutes and just say, oof, dodged a bullet. But admittingly, I'm concerned if it doesn't go well. I'll say that.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna ask you one more question, and then we'll call this a night. I guess you heard his comments in the presser about the future scheduling, the Alabama potentially trying to get rid of the Alabama games. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think would you prefer us to play Alabama? Or would you prefer us to get rid of Alabama and add Pitt in their place?
Can I say I'm 50-50?
You can.
I don't know. Because I can make an argument for both, and that's probably not the right answer. I'll admit that. Listen, I don't like what happened to West Virginia in week 1, but I love the fact that we challenged ourselves against a national opponent, regional, but a national opponent in Penn State. I love the fact of maybe opening the season up against Alabama, because we get so excited in week 1's, right, and week 2's kickoff weekends of these big games. And I think it's an opportunity for your program to really solidify yourself and put yourself on the map if you get a win. But you're also running the risk of the opposite. And we saw that in week 1. And on the other hand, yeah, good point. And on the other hand, nobody's been more of an advocate to get back into regional games than me. Look, I love the Big 12. I've said it over and over. But gosh darn it, I miss the days of Pitt, Virginia Tech, maybe give me Maryland.
Syracuse.
Syracuse. Louisville. Dagnabbit, I just love those games, right? And where we are, that's a 3-hour drive. In some cases, Blacksburg really close.
Yep.
So can I say that I'm both both sides of the fence. I don't know the answer.
I'm with
I
you.
don't know
I'm
the
in the
answer.
exact same boat. As the fan in me wants the Alabama game because that would be
Sure.
so fun. I've got friends that are Alabama fans that I might could meet up with for the game.
Yeah.
You know, there's Alabama coming to Morgantown. I remember when LSU came to Morgantown several years ago, how packed that stadium was, especially if they were able to get a night game. I mean,
Yeah.
it would be on the national TV, a national stage again. But I want what's best for the program at the end of the day. And Neil Brown and Ren Baker both seem to agree that starting off with a Power 5 team, especially a blue blood Power 5
Yeah.
team, is probably not the best thing to do because most other teams in the country aren't doing it. And there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So if it's better for the program long term that they don't do it, then I'm cool with it. But the
Yeah.
fan in me wants to play Alabama because it would
Yeah.
be freaking cool. It's just not something you get to do very often.
Absolutely. And it gives you that opportunity to cement yourself in with a huge, I don't want to oversell it, but a program changing win.
Yeah.
But I think we'd both agree that the last several years it's just not worked out.
You know what's probably going to happen, and this is the pessimist in me. Nick Saban's gone now. Alabama, and I'm not saying this. I'm not saying Alabama's going to take a step back, but this is West Virginia's luck. West Virginia will get Alabama off the schedule. They will end up going back to being just an average team like they were before Saban got there for those few years, and actually be beatable. And then we won't be able to play them.
Be our luck.
Of course, that being said, it wouldn't be as exciting either if it's not the Alabama without Nick Saban is not really is it as exciting without him? You know what I mean? Anyway,
it's different. Yeah, it's a good point. It's different. So, I guess if it's not the correct answer probably to say that you're 50-50, but again, I'm not saying anything new here. I've been extremely vocal on X about it. Look, I love the Big 12. I love everything it's given West Virginia. I love the people I've met. But dang it, I love those regional games.
Mm-hmm.
That just as an excitement. It's memories. You and I probably share a lot of friends and maybe even some family that are regional that support those programs, and I'm always up for a West Virginia football game that's 45 minutes down the road. That doesn't hurt me or you. So yeah, 50-50.
Nope.
Yeah, I could go either way, Couz.
Yes, I'm with you, man. Same here. I basically I can take it or leave it, I guess. I'm not really passionate about it either way. But anyway, that being said, don't forget, I forgot to do this early on, but we do have a Twitter account, X account for this show. It's called at GB Breakdown _. Please come check us out. Give us a follow. Also, you can come check Jonathan and I out on our personal accounts at Couz206. For those listening, it's at COUZ206. And by the way, if you're listening, please give us a 5-star review over there on the podcast. That would really help us out. And you can follow Jonathan on X at JONATHAN K Martin. It's at Jonathan K Martin, and it's Jonathan with an N, no H in the front. So, I meant with an A, no H in the front. But anyway, I think you get my point. Please follow us on Twitter. And if you're watching, you obviously can see it on the screen, so I don't need to spell it for you. But that being said, I don't think we have anything else to say. At least I don't. Jonathan, do you?
Yep. I'm good. Just really excited, and it'll be fun to revisit this show in a week.
Next week, absolutely. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting us here at Golden Blue Breakdown. Until next week, until the next show, let's go Mountaineers and cue country roads.